President Trump plans to double tariffs on steel imports, bringing them to 50%, which would take effect on Wednesday. The president made an announcement on Friday at a steel plant in Pennsylvania. He later posted on social media that the increased tariff would also apply to aluminum products. The European Union has criticized this increase, warning that it undermines their efforts to reach a negotiated solution in the ongoing trade war between them and the U.S. Meanwhile, Canada's United Steelworkers Union called the move a direct attack on its industries and workers. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defended the tariff increase yesterday on CBS.
Do you have a prediction on how much it's going to impact the construction industry, for example?
Well, I have a prediction on how much it's going to impact the steel industry, and we'll see. There are a lot of elasticities that this is a very complicated ecosystem. So, is it going to impact the construction industry? Maybe, but it's going to impact the steel industry in a great way. Yeah. There's going to be capital investment, and the number of jobs is going to be grown around the country, whether it's in Pittsburgh, whether it's in Arkansas, whether it's in Alabama.
Nippon, thanks. The president also on Friday promoted a, quote, blockbuster deal between Japan-based Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel that he claimed would keep the company American-controlled. Joining us now is White House correspondent for Reuters, Jeff Mason. Jeff, good morning. You were at this event on Friday in Pittsburgh. So what's the latest you're hearing from the White House on the increase on tariffs on steel imports? And what's the overall goal here?
Well, good morning, Ali. Number one, it's just a continuation of President Trump's use of tariffs as a way to get his way and to put his economic imprint on the economy and on trade relations with other countries. He was at this event, as you mentioned, in Pittsburgh, and ended up being the news. He announced that increase from 25 to 50% in a friendly crowd because he was talking about something that would be helpful to their industry and that industry within an important swing state. I don't have anything new to add other than to say that this is a major development in trade, and I'm very curious to see today how the markets react to that. The clip that you played from CBS that Margaret Brennan asked is a pretty key question. Yes, this will be good for or helpful to the steel industry in the United States, and that's the reason he did it. But it will have knock-on effects for other important branches and other important pieces of the economy. So that's something that we'll be watching today.
Watching the markets today, watching the continued reaction, but the European Union's already giving their reaction. They're highly critical of the president's announcement because they see it as undermining the ongoing negotiations there. But is there any sense from your sources that this is yet again another bargaining tactic from the president? And as we come off of a week where the idea of taco trade or the president always reversing course was a central thing that even he had to respond to, you think that's something that we end up seeing here?
Well, I think that's a great question, and it's certainly something that's possible. The European Union is a key trading bloc, and it's something that it's a group of countries that the president was very critical of just about a week before when he threatened to increase the overall tariffs, not just on steel and aluminum, but to all imports from the EU to, I believe that was also to 50%. Now I'm losing track of some of the numbers in my head, but another big jump. And then after doing that, got a call from the European Commission president, that's the EU executive, asking for a delay, and he agreed to do that and delayed that until July, and that led to an increase in stock markets. So yeah. The term taco, which he definitely does not like, was applicable then, and may be applicable here too if indeed, to your question, it ends up being something that was just a threat that maybe goes into effect for a little while, but then he ends up pulling back down. It's hard to say. I mean, he has been more consistent with tariffs on steel and aluminum than he has on tariffs for the broader economy. So it's also possible that he'll leave it in place. It's just a question that's pretty hard to answer right now because of the sort of volatility in his decision making on this area and on tariffs generally.
I think you're right to talk about the steel and aluminum tariffs slightly differently, just because you and I were covering them as an initial starting point on tariffs in the first administration. Peter Navarro was briefing us in the briefing room even then about that. So I think you're right to sort of carve those out as their own thing. So we'll continue watching, of course, on the tariff front. And then, of course, back in the spotlight, these peace talks between Russia and Ukraine set to start today in Istanbul after Ukraine unleashed that drone attack on Russia, damaging more than 40 Russian warplanes at 4 military bases. I think it was the ingenuity and the way that this was done that's really getting a lot of people's reaction here. But what are you hearing from the White House? Were they given a heads up about this? What was their involvement? What do we know here?
I haven't heard them say that they got a heads up, and I think this will probably just add complications to those talks in the same way that the multiple attacks that Russia has carried out on Ukraine has added complications to the talks. President Trump has been very clear that he is unhappy with both President Putin of Russia and with President Zelensky of Ukraine. And I mean, I was on the tarmac in New Jersey over a week ago when he was flying home and came out and took questions and was super critical of Putin. But I asked him then, so what are you going to do about it? And he bristled at that question and didn't like being asked that, and that's still the key question: is what is he going to do about the fact that Russia has continued to defy him? Ukraine is, I guess, is I don't know if he would view this as defiance or not, but he has continued to say over and over again that he doesn't like the way Zelensky is behaving either. So I think broadly to your question, it's just another complicating factor at a time when the United States is trying to broker a peace deal. The two sides are talking, but they're not getting closer to a ceasefire.
Yeah, and then, Jeff, as we finish this first segment of our show, I want to end where we began, which is on that attack that happened in Boulder, Colorado. What kind of updates has the administration given? I know the president was briefed on this, of course.
Yeah, well, and I'm a Coloradan myself, so my heart goes out to everyone who is affected by this horrible event. No updates from the administration. Surely it is something that the president has been briefed on and that he'll be watching and the White House will be watching. And clearly the federal government is involved in looking at this too as a terror attack. And of course the broader issue of this being just one more in the latest number of attacks related to what people are referring to as anti-Semitism and hate crimes.
Yeah, many in the Jewish community on edge, especially after what happened here in Washington, D.C., the shooting of those two staffers from the Israeli embassy. Hard not to look at this as a pattern that no one wants to see emerging of anti-Semitic acts in this country. There's no place for it here. Jeff Mason, thank you for coming on and covering it all.
Sure thing.